there's an excerpt from Barack Obama's new book, A Promised Land, that came out in the New Yorker. We can throw that tear sheet up on the screen. This part of the excerpt of the book is very interesting. It's a rather tedious retelling of the healthcare battle that we all recall back in the early days of his presidency. There are a couple of interesting parts. Let me start with this one. So he actually talks a little bit about why he didn't want to go with a single-payer Medicare for all system at the time. He says, had we been well, let me start with this. Okay. Progressives wanted single payer. The need to replace private insurance and for-profit healthcare with a single payer system like Canada's was an article of faith. Had we been starting from scratch, I would have agreed with them. The evidence from other countries showed that a single national system, basically Medicare for all, was a cost-effective way to deliver healthcare. But then he goes on to argue, but it just wasn't practical because we would have to start from scratch and rebuild it from scratch, which is really ridiculous considering that we have the Medicare system. It already exists, so you're not building from scratch. But that was his way of being like, progressives, I'm really with you. I really would want to do Medicare for all. I like the idea, but you're just not being practical here.
Well, here's a funny subtweet of the progressive left. He talks here about how the phrase public option became a useful shorthand inside the White House. Anytime Democratic interest groups complained about us failing to defy political gravity and securing less than 100% of whatever they were asking for. And I always think of Ryan Grimm because Obama actually had a personal beef with Ryan, and the Huffington Post at the time, he was like, well, if I signed the Emancipation Proclamation, they would say that Obama didn't free all of the slaves in the country. And I was like, well, that is, technically true.
Yeah, like actually people should say that.
The Emancipation Proclamation, when that is what, by the way, many of radical Republicans said about President Lincoln at the time.
Yes.
So, yes, I mean, they told the truth. Obama always had a deep and disgust with the left for not thinking that he did everything possible in order to get something done. And he always had a deep disgust with the right for not thinking that he was Jesus Christ's second coming to earth and that we should just listen and trust him in order to be the president for all of us. So generally what I'm saying is that he had this deep messianic complex where he always thought that because he considered an issue so deeply that there was simply no other option. And he never considered the validity of anybody who disagreed with him. And that's mostly what his presidency was about.
I mean, the right's view of Obama was mostly completely unhinged. They had the same, like, oh my, he's a radical and he's transforming the country, when actually the problem was that he wasn't doing nearly enough or using nearly enough force, especially in these early days, to get through what the country actually needed. I mean, the stimulus was too small, relied too much on tax cuts, he didn't do almost anything to help homeowners who were struggling during that time. He bought into the deficit hot crap. He tried for 8 damn years to find some grand bargain to cut Social Security. So their analysis of him was completely unhinged, but his own analysis of himself is also, a little self-serving.
Oh, yeah.
And this was interesting. So this is from John Walker, who points out that, some of the revisionist history on this healthcare side. So you see the quote here from the piece. He says, on the Senate side, we were nowhere close to having 60 votes for public option. When word got out that the public option had been removed from the Senate bill, activists on the left went ballistic. Those crazy activists on the left who always want people to have health care. How dare they? So John Walker says, I see Obama still lying about the ACA and public option. They passed the ACA with 60 and immediately after modified it with a reconciliation bill. That tool took only 50 votes and could have contained a public option, just as activists like myself requested for months. And really the point here, and we've pointed this out about Obama before in some of his other rhetoric, is he acts like politics are like a force of gravity.
I'm gonna have to restart my computer because for whatever reason it's not registering my tab